Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, brought to you and presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I introduce to you Brother Chris Ludke.
This is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to explore mathematics. What would the world look like without math? Well, first of all, those of us that studied the humanities would probably be a lot happier, but setting that aside, ancient tablets have been found that kept track of the numbers of animals and amounts of grain that were traded. Can you conceive of a world with no commerce, no banking, no appreciation of patterns and forms, no rules or structures, no card games, no games of chance? But you've missed a fundamental point in asking this question. Every human on this planet is a mathematician from birth. Some may have been poorly taught and no longer enjoy it much, but everyone does it every time they think. More than numbers, factorials, and fractions, mathematics is about relationships. Relationships of numbers, how they work with each other, work for us, against us, and can talk about any situation. Many believe mathematics to be one true universal in the cosmos. They're not developed or invented so much as discovered. Mathematics uniquely combines the abstract and the concrete. Math is language and structure. It's a bridge between all aspects of liberal arts. My goal here is to examine the general field of mathematics, how it came about, and how it teaches us a powerful symbolic message in Masonic usage. So let's start at the beginning. What is mathematics? Well, here we're focusing on arithmetic, a branch of mathematics dealing with properties and manipulation of numbers. But, as always, let's see what William Preston had to say in the early 19th century. According to Preston, arithmetic teaches the powers and properties of numbers, which is variously affected by letters, tables, figures, and instruments. By this art, reasons and demonstrations are given for finding out any certain number whose relation or affinity to others is already known. Basically, mathematics is the science that deals with the logic of shape, quantity, and arrangement. Math is all around us. It's in everything that we do. It is the building block for everything in our daily lives, from mobile devices and computers to software, architecture, art, money, engineering, even sports in this day and age. Since the beginning of recorded history, mathematical discovery has been at the forefront of every civilized society, and math has been used by even the most primitive and earliest cultures. The need for math arose because of the increasing complexity and demands of society as it develops around the world, requiring more advanced mathematical solutions. The more complex a society, the more complex the mathematical needs. Primitive tribes needed little more than the ability to count, but also used math to calculate the position of the sun and physics of hunting. All the records, anthropological and historical, show that counting and ultimately numerical systems as a device for counting formed the inception of the mathematical elements in all culture. So let's look at the history of mathematics. Several civilizations in China, India, Egypt, Central and Mesoamerica contributed to mathematics as we know it today. The Sumerians, who lived in the region that is now southern Iraq, were the first people to develop a counting system with a base 60 system. This was based on using the bones in the fingers to count and then use as sets. From these systems, we have the basis of arithmetic, which includes basic operations of addition, multiplication, division, fractions, and square roots. And at this point, you may well be having nightmares of middle school and high school, and that's fine because at the end of the day, that may simply be because it just wasn't taught to you well. But back to the topic. The Sumerian system passed through the Akkadian Empire to the Babylonians around 300 BC. 600 years later in Central America, the Mayans developed elaborate calendar systems and were skilled astronomers. About this time, the concept of zero would be developed in India. As civilizations developed, mathematicians began to work with geometry, which computes area, volume, and angle and has many practical applications, which we will get into in a later episode. The word mathematics comes from the ancient Greeks and is derived from the word mathema, meaning that which is learned. Math, of course, being discovered, not invented, and that's going to be a key element. When you look at the universe, creation, the earth, when we look at math, it's not so much that we invented mathematics. It's that humans discovered them. They exist at the base of all that is created. And therefore, when we discover mathematics, arguably we're discovering something bigger, but we'll get to that. The ancient Greeks built on other ancient civilizations, and they developed the model of abstract mathematics all the way through geometry. During this time, we also see the development of trigonometry, which studies relationships between the sides and angles of triangles. And that seems like a strange thing, just dealing with triangles, but of course it becomes very, very important with navigation, measuring distance, or surveying land. Trigonometry, of course, relies on synthetic geometry developed by Greek mathematicians such as Euclid. In past cultures, trigonometry would be applied to astronomy and the computation of angles in the celestial sphere. This is before we start applying other rules to it. The development of mathematics was taken on by Islamic empires, as well as by the Europeans and the Chinese. Leonardo Fibonacci was a medieval European mathematician famous for his theories on arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. The Renaissance led to advances that include decimal fractions, logarithms, and projective geometry. Number theory was greatly expanded on, and theories like probability and analytic geometry ushered in new ages of mathematics, with calculus at the forefront. So, why do we need this today? Why are we being taught this? Mathematics is, of course, the pillar of organized life for the present day. Without numbers and mathematical evidence, we cannot resolve any issue in our daily lives. There are times, measurements, rates, wages, tenders, discounts, claims, supplies, jobs, stocks, contracts, taxes, money exchange, etc. And in the absence of these, we would face confusion and chaos. Mathematics literally gives logic to the world around us. When man first wanted to answer the question, such as how many, he invented math. Then algebra would be invented to facilitate calculations, measurements, analysis, and engineering. The science of trigonometry, of course, would emerge when humans wanted to locate high mountains and stars. Therefore, the knowledge of this idea of math arose and developed when humans felt the need, and mathematics are necessary for the long planning of life, and also the daily planning of an individual. Although the importance of mathematics can never be denied, a general fear of dealing with math still exists, primarily in students in today's day and age. Having said that, most people nowadays grapple with the calculations as they find them too tough to handle. Mathematical rapprochement is necessary for any process. So if anyone wants to reach the height of their lives, they should not fail to believe in the rules of mathematics. Every day, the ordinary citizen has a daily interest in mathematics. It's deeply related to natural phenomena, the way to solve many secrets in nature. Mathematics is necessary to understand other branches of knowledge. There is no science, art, or specialty except mathematics was the key to it, hence its place as the first of the quadrivium. So how does this relate to Freemasonry? After all, mathematics wouldn't seem to be that closely related. That mathematics in common with other humanities can lead us beyond ordinary existence and can show us something of the structure in which all creation hangs together is not a new idea. The ability of mathematics to provide a framework of reality, framework of action, and its ability to change our perception of what it is immense. But what is more important is the fact that mathematical truth is independent of human judgment. Mathematical reality is there to be discovered or observed. Math is true and does not depend upon judgment. That is, 1 + 1 is always going to be 2. The square root of 25 is always 5. And despite the ever-changing appearances of reality, mathematics serves as a stalwart marker of reality, is a fixed point within a circle. So mathematics appears to be an unchanging reflection of reality, a map used by the grand architect of the universe for us to discover and reflect upon, a mystical endeavor open to anyone who cares to consider it. Is this what Pythagoras meant when he said that all is numbers? Well, that's definitely possible. Here too is the reason that he is given such recognition, or mathematics is given such recognition in Masonic rites. Mathematics is more than a tool used to count or a way to record dimensions. Mathematics is a signpost for anyone who wishes to better understand their world and their reality. It becomes metaphorical. Mathematics is the way that we understand the world around us. If we understand the world around us in objective terms, then we ultimately come to questions of the grand architect of the universe and creation. And if we can prove mathematics, then aren't we also proving creation? It becomes an interesting subject because mathematics at its base is also logic. It is pure logic. There is no emotion. It doesn't matter how I feel when I say 1 + 1 = 2. I can be angry or sad or anything else, and no matter what my belief system, well, that equation is going to work out. It's a strangely objective field. And it's one that turns up, arguably in certain forms, 3 different times in the quadrivium, as we're going to see in mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. From a Masonic perspective, mathematics and their importance is quite clear. Arithmetic creates the framework by which we can explore and discover the cosmos. No other field can claim such a distinction. Mathematics also teaches abstract thinking when dealing with algebra while relying on the concrete. This parallels, how we use concrete information through the filter of logic to understand human existence. Math not only underlies our universe and the laws that keep it orderly, it underpins universal lessons we teach in the lodge, and it acts as the building block for the last 3 liberal arts at this point. Because mathematics is at the base of music, so that we can determine rhythm, accent, and beat. Geometry, of course, will be a branch of mathematics, looking at how we determine size, shape, or position. Astronomy becomes the practical application of mathematics by applying it to the celestial sphere above. But at the base, we have maths. Often we overlook it, but at the end of the day, probably one of the most important of the 7 liberal arts. In our next episode, we're going to move on from that and look at music.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org. That's WIMasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and further light in Masonry. Thank you for listening.